What is going on, Stallions and Stallionettes? Welcome to the Gamer Heaven. Right here in my face, staring me in the brown eye, we have Turtle Beach's first controller. They were founded in the 70s, started making gaming headsets in 2005, so 15 and a half years ago, and this is their first entrance into the controller market. I did an unboxing and early preview of some of the features of this bad boy a few days ago. Today is the day I'm actually able to release my comprehensive review to the public, and this will be available for purchase on August 1st at all major retailers, including Amazon, Best Buy, Walmart, and all the big dogs. Let's get this thing. Whoa, welcome back. So to keep this review comprehensive, detailed, and so I don't miss any key points, I do have some notes in front of me here, and I have this video broken into sections. There will be timestamps in the description below. So first of all, price, release date, and where to buy this bad boy. So like I mentioned during the intro, this will be available for purchase on August 1st. It is for sale on Amazon. There will be a link to the landing page in the description below if you want to check this bad boy out. And this retails for $60 US and does come in a black color, pictures on screen here. I opted to get my grubby mitts, my gamer paws, if you will, on this white version here, as I think, in my opinion, it looks a little bit sleeker, especially with the gray cooling gel grips, which we will talk a little bit about those in just a hot second here. So ergonomically, this is identical to an Xbox One controller. I say One, not Series. Granted, they are virtually identical. However, the Series S and X did shave a couple of millimeters off of the bumper, and also does have a little bit more aggressive cut in at the top of the shell here. And this is more reminiscent of the classic Xbox One controller. So it does feel very comfortable in the hand. I do believe that the Xbox One controller is virtually perfect ergonomically for most standard North American hands. As for weight, on my scale, which I use for food, guys, food, contrary to popular belief, I don't do nefarious things with this here scale. She weighed in at 8.1 ounces, which is relatively lightweight as it is a wired controller, so there is no internal battery. That is going to save some weight. For context or comparison's sake, an Xbox Series controller loaded to the gills with two AA batteries is going to weigh in at 10.2 ounces. Build quality, I would say, is incredibly good, especially for a $60 controller, and especially a controller that is relatively light at 8.1 ounces. It doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't, when I'm trying to do the flex test right now, bending it to and fro, back and forth, there's no creaks and moans and groans in the shell. Now, as for a warranty, there is a 1-year limited warranty on all Turtle Beach headsets, so I'm assuming this being another peripheral or accessory from them, that would continue on. So the unique features of this controller, because it does have quite a few, especially for the $60 price point. First of all would be this block up here, and this is a preamp as well as a control deck for all of your audio controls. Turtle Beach having their roots deep in audio design. In the 70s, they were designing audio cards and MIDI keyboards for music production. Then they started getting into headsets. They've been producing those for 15 years, and they have integrated a lot of the features in their headsets into the controller here. For example, you do have the 4 EQ or equalizer modes that you would have on any Turtle Beach headset, as well as superhuman hearing, which basically, marketing gimmick name aside, it boosts up the mid-range and lowers the treble and bass to where you can clearly, distinctly hear footsteps. I will touch on that when I get to my pros and cons section, but just listing the fact of the feature, you can turn it on and off on the fly, which is very convenient. You do also have a chat game balance, as well as your headphone volume and a mic mute, which is incredibly convenient, not having to reach up to your headset. And then you have ergonomic cooling grips, as Turtle Beach likes to call it, which uses their patented rubber design, as well as these channels they call micro cooling channels, which basically let your palms dissipate heat easier. You do have 2 mappable action buttons, as they call it, which are basically rear buttons, not paddles, because obviously they are flush or sunken into the rear shell, but they are a 2-button design, which in my testing worked very well. And then this also has what's called Pro Aim Focus Mode, which allows you to hold down the right rear button, and that limits the sensitivity of your right stick. So you pick up a sniper rifle or something, you need some finite movements and whatnot, you need some real precise aiming, and you generally play on a high sensitivity. You hold down that right button, which, by the way, you can still have this map to another function. So for me, I had crouch and jump, or B and A. And in addition to my jump, if I held down the button, it would limit my aiming sensitivity, and you can control 4 different levels of that dampening or that handicap of your sensitivity. And this does also have control for mic monitoring. You can turn it off completely or through 3 different volume levels. And then, of course, just the standard Xbox Series and Xbox One features, built-in rumble force motors, a 3.5mm headphone jack, obviously, as this does use a preamp system. So for the pros, this one is completely subjective, as everyone sees beauty differently, but cosmetically, especially in this white, I do think it is a very, very handsome controller. Granted, it would have a much more clean, handsome, sterile design if they were to swap out these colored face buttons for some white face buttons. For example, what we did on the Xbox Series S budget build over here really wouldn't boost their production costs very much. Maybe white buttons with this tone of gray for the actual lettering, that would look real nice. Ergonomics are also a pro because it feels virtually identical to an Xbox One controller. Button presses, analog sticks, D-pad all feel virtually identical to an Xbox One controller. However, I will say, listing this as a pro, there's a nice ribbed texturing on the bumpers and triggers that are a lot more grippy than the standard Xbox One or Xbox Series controllers, which I greatly do appreciate. They do feel really good. So going along with the ergonomics and comfort, I would have to say these cooling grips are very, very nice. I will say it's a little bit of a marketing gimmick, as they're obviously not going to be like an air conditioner on your palms or anything like that. It's not like you're virtually never going to get your hands warm or anything of the sort. However, they do feel incredibly comfortable. The only thing I will say for Turtle Beach with their next version or iteration of this controller, if they do make a V2 down the road, I would recommend that they go ahead and wrap that grip all the way across the front, because it had kind of a weird sensation on my palm where you would feel the slick plastic and then the grip right here. I think it would look better, and I think it would be a lot more comfortable on the palm if they were to just wrap this rubber grip all the way around. And it is also cut out in the back as well. Granted, they will have to have a small cutout for the Phillips screw right there. Yes, I did say Phillips screw. It is not a standard T8 screw like in a traditional Xbox controller. You do have 5 Phillips head screws if you do want to disassemble this bad boy, which I'm sure they do not recommend, and I'm not doing it because, well, this was sent out to me. The next pro would be this whole block right here. This is so convenient. I use this constantly while I was playing. I would switch equalizer modes. I found the one that I actually prefer the most is mode number 1, which is called Signature Sound, and surprise, surprise, that's actually the mode that I enjoyed the most when I tested their headsets in the past as well. So signature mode sounded really good, and then also mode 4, which is bass and treble boost. So the low end and the high end are boosted up slightly, gives you a little bit more rich bass out of your headset, and then also gives a little more scream or pop in the high end and the treble. So I thought that sounded pretty good as well. The middle 2 modes, not a big fan. I mean, they don't really want to make you throw up in your mouth or anything, but I didn't like them. And then just being able to mute your mic, even if you have a mic mute button on your headset, it's still quicker just to do this. It takes literally half a second versus having to reach up to your headset. Just very convenient. Same thing with the chat and game blend, the volume of your headset, and then mic monitoring, which I leave off completely, but a lot of people like it. And if you want to have it in a less aggressive mode where you just barely hear yourself repeated back into your headset, you can set that up here. Superhuman hearing mode. So marketing gimmick name aside, it does work incredibly well. It does allow you to hear footsteps very well because it does boost up the mid-range, unless a game doesn't have footsteps in the mid-range. For some reason, they're big, booming, thunderous, bassy footsteps or whatever. I would say I would definitely leave it off for the majority of your play. You're not going to want to try and play through an entire game with superhuman hearing sound on because, well, it's not going to sound very cinematic or immersive. You're not going to feel like you're in the game, in the immersive environment or anything like that, and it's not going to sound very natural. It's not how the game was programmed and intended to be heard. But when you do click it on, maybe you're playing a first-person shooter and you're not sure, you're scratching your head, do I hear footsteps outside on wood? What's going on here? And then you press superhuman hearing. Oh yeah, clear as day, baby. I hear them. Me personally, just my personal preference, I do not use superhuman hearing. I did several times for the review just to make sure that it worked as it did in their headsets, and it does indeed. And it is effective. However, me personally, I would like to play the game as it was intended to be played, especially a multiplayer game. I don't want to have an unfair advantage. I want to hear sound as everyone else does through their headset. Of course, unless they're using superhuman hearing, in which case I'm just going to have to rely on being a better shot and more agile than them. Next up would be the fact that this is actually a preamp as well. So I tried 3 different headsets. I tried a Pulse 3D, which is funny. It's designed specifically for PS5, but I used it wired. And then I used my Razer Nari Ultimates that I've had for like 4 years, wired. They are wireless, but I use them wired. And then I used the Turtle Beach Recon 500s that I reviewed on the channel here recently, really doubling down on Turtle Beach products. Turtle Beach controller, Turtle Beach headset, Turtle Beach stickers on my rig, Turtle Beach t-shirt, Turtle Beach snapback. Nope, don't have any of that. But what I did notice was the maximum volume for all 3 of the headsets that I tried was slightly higher, just a few decibels. It's not going to blow out your eardrums or rattle your skull or anything like that, but it was noticeably louder. So this does indeed work as a preamp, at least in my testing. Not only was it louder, but it also seemed a lot more crisp and clear than if I were to just plug in a headset to the 3.5mm headphone jack on not only just an Xbox One controller, but literally any other premium controller that I've tried that doesn't have this particular preamp. I think they did a phenomenal job with whatever Blackmagic audio design they have running in here. Their 15 and a half years of gaming headset experience that they packed in this little block right here does a phenomenal job. The next pro would be these back buttons. It would be kind of nice if they had 4. Again, if they do a second version or iteration, considering this will be standing in the same price point, going head to head with the PowerA Fusion Pro, which is another, between $60 and $80 wired controller for Xbox One and Series as well. And that does have 4 paddles. But these do feel a lot more comfortable in my opinion. I didn't like the paddles on the PowerA Fusion Pro, at least in my initial testing. These feel a lot better, and the fact that they are remappable, and it is relatively quick to remap them as well. I will do a small demo within the video. And I do also like the fact that instead of having to give up one of your paddles to be the focus mode, it's automatically bound to the right paddle. So that way you can still have this set to jump or crouch or whatever, but when you hold it down, it gives you that very precise movement. Now, the only thing I will say is, even though you're holding it down, it's still going to do the action that's mapped to that control. So for me, I had jump, so when I'm trying to get that precise slow aim, my character on screen would jump and then go into moving slowly. But also another weird little quirk about that, it's only on the right paddle or back button. It's not on the left, and you cannot shift it over to the left. So this is the button that you're gonna have to train yourself to use. But again, I do not use it personally because I like to actually train myself to control my right analog stick. Generally, first-person shooters, I'll play on keyboard and mouse, but I do play on PS5 and Xbox Series FPSs every once in a while, and I like to train myself to actually utilize finite, precise movements rather than having the aid of something like this. But it is there for you, which is nice. So the cable that comes with it is a 10-foot braided USB-C cable with a Velcro tieback, which is very, very nice. And also, I do like the fact that this is not a proprietary cable that has a special cutout or something like that, because if this were to get lost or your dog eats it or something, you don't have to buy a replacement cable. You can use literally any long USB-C cable that you have laying around. In case you lose one or you need an even longer one, I will have a couple linked in the description below. The only caveat to that is this port is incredibly wiggly, guys. So that is something that would be alleviated if they had a little cutout like a lot of these wired controllers have. However, it's kind of a trade-off. This isn't a proprietary cable, it's just a universal USB-C cable. But it is a little bit wiggly because it doesn't have some kind of sunken in cutout shape that you have to slide into. All right, gentlemen, I'm gonna go ahead and cut the ring light for a minute just so you can see the controls a little bit better on here. So as you can see, the mic mute on and off, superhuman hearing. Now, to get through these modes, you're gonna press the mode button and it will select each mode individually. Then you come over to the select button and each mode has 4 of these little dots, which selects a different profile. So mic monitoring right now is off because I don't use it. Now, if you want it full blown, you want all 4 of these LEDs indicated. Equalizer mode over here, 1 is Turtle Beach Signature EQ, which sounds pretty good. 2 is bass boost. 3 is disgusting, don't use it. And 4 is treble and bass boost. Now over here with the controller icon, these are 4 different profiles, and basically it'll save all your settings for equalizer, mic monitoring, stick sensitivity, as well as the rear mappable buttons, which is really nice. Speaking about the rear mappable buttons, you have to be illuminated on the controller mode here. Then you're going to hold down select for 2 seconds. You will get a little flashy dance on here. Press the rear paddle you want mapped, then the face button. It will quickly flash a couple of times. Then you press select to exit map mode and you are remapped. And then this crosshair icon or logo over here is that finite slowdown of your right stick sensitivity. And again, you can choose 4 different modes of that or turn it off completely. Now, just a sidebar, if you do unplug a headset, you will see there is no longer illumination on the volume and chat. They're not lit up anymore, and these 2 features will be blocked out. So now it's just scrolling between the controller mode, because those are your onboard profiles, and then also the precision right stick, or focus aim as they call it. But there is no control for superhuman, mic mute, equalizer, or headset monitoring because it knows, well, you don't have a headset plugged in. Little tweaks and adjustments that this company can make on their next version or iteration of this controller. So first of all, I would say wrapping around the cooling gel grips, as they call them, all the way around instead of having this exposed plastic shell. That'd be nice. cosmetically changing the face buttons, but again, that's not a huge deal whatsoever. 4 paddles would be a nice addition, and ideally I wish we lived in a world where this could be wireless. However, that literally is not a physical possibility. All the third-party companies such as Razer and PowerA that make controllers for the Xbox, as they do not have the licensing for the 2.4 gigahertz wireless connection that Xbox uses, they cannot use wireless on an Xbox. That's why the only wireless premium Xbox controllers are the Elite 1 and 2, and then also some third-party controllers from Scuf, because they paid a pretty fair little kickback to Microsoft to get the rights to have the wireless card on board that will connect with the Xbox. There virtually is no complaints that I honestly have, other than the USB-C port being a little bit wiggly. It never felt like it was gonna break off or anything like that, but just a little bit concerning when you're sitting there wiggling it. All in all, I don't have any complaints, and I purposely tried to look for things, areas of improvement, and I really couldn't find any other than the small nitpicky things that I mentioned, which is huge considering this is their first ever entry into the controller market. This is their first version, their genesis, their first attempt, their first crack at a controller, and they did a pretty damn good job in my opinion. Now, as for the competitor, you have the PowerA Fusion Pro, which retails for $80. I think it goes on sale pretty frequently down to the $60 range. That does have more features packed into it. However, what it does not have, and to me it is a huge selling factor, would be the preamp and this audio suite up here. This controls a whole hell of a lot that you do not need to reach up to your headset, not to mention the preamp actually does work to make your headsets louder and clearer than they're going to be in any other headset, which is pretty sick. The cooling grips, granted, is a little bit of a marketing gimmick and whatnot. They do keep your hands pretty cool. It's because of that, and that is because of that little cutout design, which basically lets the heat dissipate a little bit better than just sitting on a smooth plastic or a smooth rubber shell. So my verdict, this thing is absolutely amazing for 60 bucks. Absolutely fantastic. I will be using this a ton on PC as well as my Xbox Series, and I think this is just a really solid controller. I love the audio suite, and if you do not own a Turtle Beach headset, this is fantastic because it has the superhuman hearing, their 4 signature equalizer modes, mic monitoring, a lot of the features that are baked into their headsets you can get with this controller. So if you're looking for a second controller to pick up and you don't mind being wired, or maybe you want a primary competitive controller for PC use, this is right up your Diagon alley. If you guys enjoyed this honest product review, liking the video helps it to get seen by more people, so this information will reach and assist them as well, which in turn helps me grow this channel, which I do greatly appreciate. Subscribe for more content like this. I do a lot of honest gaming peripheral reviews, as well as daily gaming news in the community and industry, as well as tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing, and I will see you tomorrow, because I upload daily. Oh yeah, I have a merch store now. Link in the description below. Buy yourself a shirt or something. You drink coffee? I can see you juddering over there. I know you do. Get yourself a mug so you don't have to hold your hot coffee in your hand. It's painful.